We have a very special guest today. Her name is Valarie Spiser-Albert, and she's visiting us from San Antonio, Texas. Welcome, Valarie.
Well, thanks, RJ. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, we're going to have fun. We enjoy talking to each other, and this is a great opportunity. And I would like to start by, I think, asking you very briefly about your checkered career. But we don't want to limit ourselves to that. We want to know more about you as a person, because I think you're quite interesting. So how about we do this? You tell us what you're actually doing now, and then we'll talk more about that later. And then let's go back to the beginning, where you first started out, because I know a little bit about that, and I might jump in now and then and ask you some questions. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay. What are you doing these days?
Well, right now I am teaching at the University of Texas in San Antonio. I teach leadership classes in their School of Business. In addition, I have my own consulting company called Leading Concepts.
And that, I think, is such a neat title. And what I understand is you're in the process of developing a logo, and we've been brainstorming about that just for fun.
Oh,
it'll be wonderful to see what that turns out to be, because that has so many possibilities, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think that logos are something that are very personal. Mm-hmm. And not only do they represent the company, but they also represent the people. The people
Absolutely. That are there. And you,
right.
You are eventually probably going to go into a partnership and develop this later. And we can talk about that.
Okay.
But you're actually doing that right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're in the process of setting up a partnership and really looking to expand Leading Concepts to a higher level. It's been pretty much local in San Antonio for the past few years, but now we're ready to move it up to national and international status.
Well, I want to know more about that. Again, is it true that your very first career was as a speech pathologist?
Yep, that's true.
Language. I'm supposed to say speech and language. Is that true?
Speech-language pathologist, yes.
Yeah, okay. So tell us about that. How did that all start?
Okay, well, actually, I got into speech-language pathology because my father sold hearing aids.
Yeah, I remember you told me that.
And I was always interested in the customers that he had. I didn't necessarily want to sell hearing aids or go into business with him, but I wanted to have something to do with that population. So I went into speech-language pathology. I got my bachelor's and master's degrees in communication disorders.
Where did you go?
Our Lady of the Lake University in San Antonio.
San Antonio, mm-hmm. Sure.
Mm-hmm. I then went to work for some school districts around San Antonio. I worked for several years in Kerrville, which is a small town kind of northwest of San Antonio.
Yeah.
And I worked in the school district there, and then later on started my own private practice.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and worked there.
You did that? Your own clients? That I didn't know.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
Finally, I decided that it was time to come back to the big city and go back to San Antonio. I worked for the San Antonio Independent School District for a while, and then went into private practice with an old friend of mine, Ed Goose, who had his own private practice, and it was flourishing, and I worked at that for quite a while. Then finally, it felt like it was time for a change again. And so I saw an ad in the paper for a person to work, who was a speech pathologist actually, who was to work in a publishing company.
Oh, that's how that started.
That's right. Oh. And I thought, wow, that sounds like an interesting job. So I applied and I got it, and that was the beginning of my career at the Psychological Corporation.
And that's where I first met you.
That's right.
Because that company was publishing some of my materials.
Absolutely.
So we met there.
Right, right. In fact, the way that we met is that the Psychological Corporation had taken over a smaller company skill builders.
Yep.
Therapy skill builders and communication skill builders, and you came to Psychological Corporation through that merger.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that was such an exciting time, and I got to meet some very smart, very interesting people then.
Yeah, and mostly therapists, right? Occupational therapists, physical and speech. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you were in this publishing business for a long time. It seemed.
Yeah, about 12 years.
Yeah, that's
total.
pretty long. That's pretty long. So that really brings us up to when you made another change.
That's right. Towards the end of my publishing career, I decided that I really wanted to work on an advanced degree, a PhD.
I remember that. It's coming back to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the company was helping you do that.
Absolutely. They were paying for it.
And your degree was in
leadership studies.
Leadership studies. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went back to school.
But you were working at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That's important because a lot of people have to do that.
Oh,
and it's not easy.
Well, and the publishing job was about probably 10 to 12-hour job, and then I'd come home and I'd hit the books, immediately.
Yeah.
And
I did that too,
Yeah.
I worked while I was getting a master's degree, and boy, you had to organize your time very, very carefully.
Yes.
It was not easy.
It was that's a tough thing to do, and I, first of all, being an educator now, after my I got my degree, I decided that I was really interested in academia and interested in the research and interested in teaching adults. So
that's interesting. What do you think made you want to teach adults? Was it because you had encountered a lot of people during these jobs that needed maybe skills in being able to get along and communicate better and do better? Do you think that might have been the impetus for it?
I think so. I think that I found that adult students, non-traditional students, are really much more committed to what they're doing. I like my young students, the ones that come right out of high school. I think they're full of energy and they're just, fabulous to be around and invigorating. On the other hand, when you work with people who are a little older, who've been out in the workplace, they appreciate the education that they're getting.
Yeah, and they also have clearer goals, and they've learned enough about themselves that they know more about what their own strengths are and weaknesses, and they have, I think they're starting to make better choices about what they do.
Oh, absolutely. And they're there because they want to be.
Yeah.
And they bring as much to the party, as I say, as I do. So I've got students who, have been all kinds of jobs, and they're able to, in all different kinds of industries. So they bring together, a fabulous wealth of information. Right. And they learn from each other. Well,
the other thing that you've been able to do is take these students on trips that are extremely educational and research-based in an effort to collect data for research. So I think at this point you should tell us about some of those trips.
Okay.
And also the fact that during this time you are also presenting, right?
Right.
Conferences around the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. My area of interest in terms of research has been in change management and how organizations change that are diverse or global. And if you look at the situations that we have today, you know that every company can be global because of the internet and the technology and everything.
Everything's different now.
And because we are such a global society, we need to learn to interact with people at their cultural level.
Right.
So I've been doing research in Romania, which is a fascinating country that is really a very interesting place to go to visit and to study in, because it's truly only about 16 or 17 years post-communism now.
Right.
So
they're in real process of change.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know that a lot of the occupational therapists that I know have gone there to help train people to work with the children in the orphanages that are sensory deprived.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Yeah, and they've really and they've gone back again and again to help and bring equipment and all kinds of stuff.
You know, and it's such a wonderful country. The people are, you know, so happy to have Americans come and visit and
that's nice to help them these days.
Yeah, oh,
really
absolutely,
really nice
absolutely, absolutely. So in Romania, I was looking at a couple of issues. First, we were looking at the difference between college students in Romania and their ideas about a leader. You know,
really?
what was their idea of the perfect leader versus college students here in the U.S. And what was their idea of perfect leadership? And that was very interesting.
And some of this work that you've done, you've started to publish it and definitely present it, correct?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
And where have you presented some of this information?
Well, I have presented at a conference on quality management in Crete.
Oh, yeah, in Greece.
In Greece,
Right.
And, of course, that was a wonderful experience.
And you spent a little extra time there, didn't you, and got to really look around.
Oh, absolutely. I was able to spend a couple of weeks there.
And bringing your husband along was a kind of a good idea, too.
Yeah, he got to go, and we saw, you know, a lot of the ancient ruins, and we're both interested in archaeology and things like that. And you
also have presented in Australia, is that true?
That's true. I presented a paper on change management in diverse organizations there. And it was a very nice conference, and it was one where where the people were looking at how to integrate diverse populations into the workplace and how to welcome them and make it an interesting and welcoming place.
Now, this is such a hot topic now. So many people are doing this. Tell me what you think that you're offering, your information, is different from what other people are doing. Because that really is what you want to do in your next step, isn't it?
Sure.
You really want to give people what they really need, and yet there's a lot of training going on, a lot of books being written, a lot of people talking about this topic.
You're right, and I think one of the really important things about what's different about what I'm doing now is that you know, we have the change management group, and people do a lot of training and consulting on change management.
Right.
And usually it's based on, you know, an American business model.
And that's different from others.
Oh, absolutely.
Really different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you have to take the cultural competencies into account when you're looking at change. For example, if we look at making change in a company that's in Mexico, for example, you know, their way of doing business is different in terms of, now here in the U.S., you meet with another business person, you sit down, and you get right to business. In Mexico, however, that's considered bad form. And what you really want to do there is that you want to you know, sit down, you talk for a while, you talk about each other's families, you get to know each other first. And then only after, you know, there's this bond between you, can you talk about business.
Right. And isn't that very similar in Asia? Culture also. It's not exactly the same, but it's very, very similar.
Oh, sure. And every culture around the world has their own way of getting to know each other and conducting business. And you certainly have to take that into account.
Right.
When you are, either going into another company to do business, or you have a global organization that is reaching out to other companies.
So you have the change management people, one group, and what's another?
The other group is those who are interested just in diversity. And I think what I have done, and my colleagues have done, is to look at how do the two mix.
Okay, so that's the unique thing.
That's the unique thing.
Okay, well that's important to know. It really is.
One of the things that I've done is to look at developing kind of a matrix where you look at each country that you're going to, or each culture, and seeing what its cultural dimensions are, and then fitting certain change paradigms or ways to make change. And
we're talking about theories, right?
Theories,
right.
Into those different cultural dimensions.
Well, that sounds like an interesting exercise, a kind of a thing that you can do by yourself. You can sit down there and you can look at it, you can start playing with it and seeing what happens.
Absolutely.
On your own, and see what comes out of this.
But the real fun comes when you actually do it.
Of course. But you do have to prepare.
Absolutely.
To make sure that you've got something sensible.
Right, right.
Yeah. I would like that. I like working on things like that and seeing what develops out of it. And then, like you said, putting it into practice and see if it really is effective.
Right, right.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about your plans for the future of where you would like to see your expanded company going? What you think you may be doing? And this isn't locking you in, but I just think that some of the ideas are very exciting.
Yes. Well, my partner, Sherry Chow, who also has a PhD in leadership studies, and I are looking at ways that we can offer packages to companies no matter where they are in the developmental process. For example, if they were startups, there are things that we can do to work with companies in order to get them started on the right track.
So that they're not going to encounter problems that have to be fixed.
We
or
hope
at least
so.
Eliminate most of them.
We hope so.
Or prevent them, right?
We also would work with companies that are having problems, turnaround kinds of situations, and go in and do analysis and change management and serve as consultants to the upper management and help them come up with strategies and tactics that can take them over the hump and into the higher level again.
Well, long ago, when I first became a consultant in my field, I learned that a consultant's major job is to work themselves out of a job.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
So I kind of perceive you maybe going in, giving a lot of time and effort into this a project, and then gradually facilitating them taking over and gradually working your way out, but still available to be on call. Is that true? That's
true, and that's definitely part of our plan, is that we come in and do hands-on work for a while, and then, then step out.
Yeah.
But offer ourselves, we'll always be there.
Right.
For a certain number, maybe 6 months or a year or however long they need us to come back in and, kind of give them a little pump up again.
Right.
Get them keeping.
Is there anything else you want to say about your professional life before we start talking about other, maybe more personal side of you? Anything else about the business that's on your mind? You're excited about it, aren't you?
I'm very excited about it. Yes.
And you're planning it very carefully.
Oh, yes.
You're doing a lot of brainstorming, you and Sherry, and it'll be launched. I mean, the expansion will be launched when it's ready.
Right. We're shooting for a launch of January 1st.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's soon. See, that's soon for something like this.
We're getting our website renovated and really getting it up and looking sharp and.
Yeah, and I'll get the website address from you because I would like to post that if people want more information, because I think this is very interesting even though you're in San Antonio, you're going to go nationwide, and besides, this is information that applies to so many different people, so many different organizations,
right.
Not just businesses. It could apply to volunteer, nonprofit organization, anything.
Absolutely. I've done a lot of work with nonprofits.
Have you?
Yes. In terms of change management. I mean, they all go through the same kind of process.
And in this way, they don't have to reinvent the wheel. You've got the experience and you have strategies and solutions for some of these things.
And I tell you, it's my philosophy is that first the leader, the person in charge, has to change. You have to change first, and then then people will follow that, become your followers, and change themselves. So
say that again, because that's a very significant statement.
Yeah, I believe that first you change yourself from within, and as people see the results of that change, they will follow.
Right, and a leader really sets, I've always believed, the whole tone for the whole organization.
Right.
The philosophy, the way people treat each other, the priorities. All of that comes from the top.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And if it's not there, the organization does not work well.
Right. And they also set the culture.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because we have multi-levels of culture. So we have certainly the culture of the environment, the culture of the people within the company culture.
Right.
And then our own personal culture.
It's funny you say that, because now you're making me think of when I'm working with children, I'm looking at how the child is functioning within himself, herself, and how that child functions within the family, and how that child functions within the community.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And all of that is what occupational therapy is about, about how children and adults, what they do, what their occupational function is within their lives.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and
so I can relate to what you're saying, even though I'm not strictly a business person.
You know how I love occupational therapists.
You do, don't you?
Yes, I really do.
Because you know a lot of them.
Absolutely.
And they're interesting people.
Oh, yeah. Probably I was one in another life or something.
Yeah, something like that. 'Cause that's why we can talk, and our brains are wired in a similar way.
That's right.
We don't want to run out of time, so tell me what your personal interests are, because they vary. I know, for example, because I watched you get an award for your Taekwondo. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Taekwondo.
Right.
Yes.
And I know that you're interested in maintaining historical places.
I'm a member of the San Antonio Conservation Society.
Right. And I also know that you have a women's group that I've never heard of before. Tell us about that.
I belong to Zonta International, and they are a group of women and men. The group was started in 1919 or somewhere around there, and by the suffragettes.
But they're not the Daughters of the Revolution.
No. No.
Okay.
They're really interested in women's issues and changing things for the better for women, and for bringing women leaders into the spotlight.
Good.
So
and this is a local chapter?
It's a local chapter of an international group.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, a little bit about the Historical Society?
Well, the San Antonio Historical Society has been around for a long time, as you know from living in San Antonio for a few years.
I live there.
That it has quite a number of historical sites. Besides the Alamo.
I know.
That's what everybody wants to know is have you been to the Alamo or something? But the Alamo is part of it, but there's also the missions and the cathedral, and, San Antonio was founded about 250 years ago now. So it's a very old city and a very interesting city.
You meet a lot of interesting people in that group. You meet architects, you meet engineers, maybe you meet politicians, maybe.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Leaders of the city. Yeah. Anybody else kind of people that you meet?
There's a lot of just down-to-earth people who care about San Antonio and who care about saving the past.
Good.
I'm one of these people who kind of tries to gather and glean things from everywhere I go and everybody I know.
Like a big sponge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the way that they honor the past, is also influencing the way that I think about you know, other things like change.
That is a very profound statement, Valerie. I'm so impressed. Now, we only have 1 or 2 minutes left.
Okay.
You got your yellow belt. Is that what you got, or orange?
Yes.
Which was it?
Yellow when you were there.
You got yellow when I was there. How's that going?
Well, yeah, you know, I've kind of been a little busy to continue that for a while, but I'm still working on it, slowly but surely.
It was so interesting to watch that class and watch the ceremony. I loved it.
Yeah.
So let's end with telling us a little bit about your animals.
Oh, okay.
Please, especially the koi.
Well, I have, as Rhoda knows, as RJ knows, from staying with me at my house, I've got quite a zoo. We've got a large, you know, a pond in the backyard that's probably about 12 by 8 feet, so it's like a, you know, almost room size. And we have koi and fancy goldfish in it.
Right.
And they're very beautiful. Some of them are, you know, this long.
And then you've
now.
got this parrot that actually talks. Is it a macaw or not?
Yeah, it's a blue and gold macaw, and her name is Ernie.
Right. And how many cats? How many dogs? And then we're out of time.
Okay.
Quickly, how many dogs? How many cats?
3 dogs and 9 cats right now.
Wow. Well, Valerie, this has been, I thought it would be fun. It is. I learned some more. I mean, we've been talking for a couple of days now, and yet, because you're here, but now I've learned some more about you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview, and I'm looking forward to the rest of our fun weekend.
Oh, me too. Thanks so much for inviting me.
You're one of my favorite sharp women, and I do say that quite often, but there's a lot of them out there.
Thank you. You're special.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.